So today we're here in San Antonio, Texas, and we're in the San Antonio Mission Trails. The mission that we see behind me was one of the very first ones of a long line of missions that were as much as trading posts as military posts. And these missions were strategic to placing the local population into submission. And today we're here because I consider it a great starting point for the introduction into the dialogues of knowledge. Because these churches, still today, they're a landmark of our Western modern civilization, right? And when I say modern, the same word, it says it, right? We're almost like the most advanced, we're in the future. And what I wanted to talk about is that just like religion and Western science have really created the concept of civilization. And so it happens to be that we are civilized, and then the rest of every other culture in the world are somehow living in the past, somehow they're uncivilized, right? And so just to give us an idea, what we understand as modernity, the set of principles and reasons with which we give sense to reality in our modern world really emanate from the Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment is a historical period that roots in the 1600s, when the use of reason privileged everything else, meaning that it was through the use of reason that science demystified the world and the universe. And what this created, I mean, just think about it. Today we think of science as being mathematically accurate. And so whatever is mathematically accurate is true. We say DNA is true, 2 + 2 is 4. And so science has really monopolized the way in which we understand the world. And modernity and Western science only has maybe 400 years as a worldview, as a philosophy. And let's analyze where it has taken us. We live in a modern society dictated by capitalism, which is completely off balance and is destroying the planet. We live in a society where most of us at some point feel alienated, feel alone, feel isolated. We feel alienated from others. We feel alienated from the product of our labor, for what we do, from the time or the lack of time, completely domination of our time, where we spend time working, learning, even where we spend time resting. Everything has been dictated by this rationality of productivity that capitalism has brought us. So why am I bringing this? Because when we think of modernity as barely having 400 or 500 years, as a way of thinking that this worldview is the only way in which to experience life, and it's the only way in which we can have a perspective of what's out there. The great French philosopher Michel Foucault reflected on this, and he argued that the universality, meaning the complete domination of truth on the part of modernity, had been really achieved by negating, by exploiting, by suppressing, and a lot of times through violence, completely eradicating, creating cultural genocides of any other worldviews. And so we ended up thinking that ours is culture and indigenous groups is folklore. So this idea of civilization really is embedded in the way in which we understand ourselves, in the way in which we understand others. And I'm bringing this up because this is the dimension of the dialogues of knowledge. The dialogues of knowledge are formal, sacred talking circles. And it sounds simple, but its richness radicates in its simplicity. And if we have to compare our Western world of understanding life has 400 years. Well, the Mayan people have a culture that goes back at least 5,000 to 6,000 years old. Think about this. We think of science, of numbers, as absolute truth, as complete truth? Well, Mayan people have developed their own science, their own way of seeing the world. And it has come with a combination of two things. The first one is that Mayan science, Mayan people start observing the earth, the natural cycles of the earth, and measuring it mathematically. They were great astronomers, masters of time. So Mayan knowledge is not only scientifically accurate and truthful in the Western sense of the numbers, but precisely because they were observing the natural movement of the energies of the earth, is that they were able to produce knowledge that was not only mathematically accurate, but it was also profoundly spiritual. And this dimension of existence doesn't exist whatsoever in our Western modern world. And this is what the dialogues come to introduce to us. It's a different way of relating to one another, a different way of listening to one another, another way of organizing, and another way of experiencing life. The Mayan people had an amazing concept for this. It's called el arte del buen vivir, or the art of living well. And this doesn't necessarily mean being rich and having excessive wealth, as the modern Western world wants you to think, but about finding a lifestyle and a way that you could live in harmony with others, with your environment, and with your own self. So what are the dialogues? The dialogues are formal dialogue circles. So we would all sit in a circle. The dialogues assign a chronological order to speak to people. And so we'll start with a 0. 0 is the first person who starts the dialogue, and then it goes to 1, 2, 3, and so on. In the dialogues, contrary to when perhaps we're talking more in a popcorn style, meaning different people take the word, the dialogues are ruled by a specific set of protocols. And these protocols are very simple. The first one is, we all respect the chronological order to speak. This is invaluable because first, it creates a specific frequency, a specific pattern in which we're going to talk. And second, it forces people to listen because you know that when your turn is next. The next part, and this is very, very important, in the dialogues of knowledge, we're going to ask you to refrain yourself from judgments, opinions about what other people are saying. And on the contrary, what we ask participants is to listen actively. And I recommend you taking notes of what people are saying because you'll forget. There's so much to just keep up and to retain. So in the beginning, I strongly encourage you to take notes. So we will listen to what other people are saying, and then you'll have the opportunity of listening, tuning in, and weaving, acting as a mirror, incorporating some of the elements of what other people are saying into your own experience. So what is it about others that resonates with what's being said? What is it about what others experiences that you see your humanity as well? And I'll ask you all to be patient. Give the first round a try. And the first round is always a little awkward because we're all getting to feel the terrain of what is it that we're doing. But after the second or third round, you'll start noticing that there's a different frequency in which people are talking. Because just think about it. When was the last time that you reserved some time to sit in a circle, perhaps with friends, perhaps with strangers, but to really listen to them, to learn from them, to contribute, and to weave in your experience to one another's? It's amazing. Really what ends up happening is that people start recognizing its humanity into one another. And that, in today's world, where culture has completely dominated us, our perspectives, our understandings of others and our own selves, it's like a humanizing hammer that connects people at a different level. And this is not something that we invented yesterday. This is Mayan knowledge, this is Mayan wisdom. The specific format that you are going to engage was developed by Dr. Felipe Can and myself. But comes from an ancestral way of understanding life and what is life about. As I said earlier, like the Mayans people said, how do we achieve el arte del buen vivir? Thank you.